Okay.
So those,
That's what they
flaps.
mean?
Yeah, that's the rubbing.
Holy shit.
But it sounds like it's the mud flaps.
Okay.
Let's see what these train tracks.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. Welcome back, everybody, to Flatirons Tuning. We're here in the shop, and we've got the newest rally car. We've done one event with this rally car, and we're about to head out to Sno Drift for 2024. And they made an interesting change this year, which is they have brought in new boost regulations, and with that, some restrictor regulations. So we have an option of running a 36 millimeter restrictor or a 33 millimeter restrictor. But we can run more boost if we run the 33 millimeter restrictor, and so that's what we're going to try and do. But the thing is that we now have a different turbo and restrictor that we're going to put in the car to meet these new requirements. So we've got to now take all of this stuff out of what this car came with, and then kind of put on our new turbo, and then we're going to have to get tuned to meet the new rules for the ARA. So that's what the car is here to do. Viet and I and everybody in the shop, we were taking a look at this, and we've got some interesting questions at hand here.
Yeah.
All right, so Viet, when we just first popped the hood, what was the first thing that jumped out at you?
Oh, the airbox and the catch can.
Yeah.
It's
So
goofy.
the airbox, you can probably see it. It's up here. It's a custom built surround for the K&N intake, which is fine. Dust and water are issues with Rally, so like having a fully sealed airbox is a good thing, but we're going to have, it's not secured as well as we would like it, so we're going to have to find a way to kind of secure it. But this catch can, it jumped out at me a little bit as being interesting, and like once we got the car in the shop and we started to really look at it, yeah, there's some really interesting things going on here.
Oh yeah.
And it's all going to have to come off for us to put the turbo on. So as we're putting it back together and putting it back on, that's where we're going to have to figure some things out. The weirdest part, I would say, with this is, like, you can see there's this weird metal line that turns out that metal line is connected to the turbo inlet hose, and that's basically what they're using is a vacuum line.
It's actually an AC line.
AC line, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hard metal pipe, cool. But yeah, so we got to look at the hoses, and we've got to decide: are we going to stick with this catch can? Are we going to remove it? Are we going to put on an air oil separator, or what?
Whatnot, yeah. I don't think we'll know until we actually get into it to see what the routing is like and if valve covers are plugged or whatever they did to this car.
Yeah. The biggest question mark is, because what they basically have done, like, we'll give you a close-up, but they made this really nasty bend to connect the valve covers into the same inlet port. So it's kind of creating this Y, which is one of the things we've learned that you do not want to do with the PCV system, is to take the valve cover circuit and the AOS circuit and Y them together. That creates problems. And just the fitting here alone, it's like it's a really bad bend and it's a really small fitting. Like, what I want to see is what this line looks like. Is the catch can full? Does it look like oil is coming out of the catch can going into the turbo inlet? And I guess to a certain extent, what's in these lines coming off the valve covers? Because if everything is all screwy as far as the engine's ability to breathe, there might be a lot of oil in there. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, is how much oil, if there is any, in the intake track or like the intercooler and all that stuff.
Yeah. So now, the other interesting wrinkle in putting this new turbo on, it's a new turbo with the restrictor. The guy, Dave at Rallispec have been building rally cars since like the late 90s. They know what they're doing. They gave us a really well-designed restrictor for this turbo, but it's also much larger than any other restrictor that we've used before. It sticks out in front of the turbo a good bit, which is going to make fitting the turbo a challenge, but then also the turbo inlet. So that's the other X factor that we're working with here is what are we going to have to do, or what can we do with the turbo inlet to get it to fit, and then the turbo inlet's going to have to be modified.
Right.
And then with the modifications, what fittings are we going to have left for the PCV system anyway?
Exactly.
So, yeah, we've got our work cut out for us. Viet, what do you think the first step is? Where are we going to start?
Well, obviously take the top mount off and then kind of go from there. Just, I'm definitely gonna have to take the intake manifold off.
Yep.
Just to make it easier for us to just figure out the routing as far as
just even see what we're working with.
Yeah, that too. The inlet and stuff like that. And then also we can also tackle the catch can since it's very accessible. And just check out what's going on with that.
Yeah, so take the stuff apart, get it off. I think that's where we're going to start. So, yeah, well, let's dive into it. Let's see what we find.
Absolutely, it's going to be fun.
Oh, what? That's not what I was expecting.
It's the 85 goop.
Oh, there we go. There's a little oil in there.
Look at this.
Yeah.
And then like,
My bad, guys.
So that's,
Mainly E85 stuff.
yep. That's why E85 and catch cans are not good friends.
Oh. Smells like sake.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. Look at it. Sorry, camera. Oh no. It's juicy.
there's no oil drain, so you have clearance to set it down. Also, the stud on this side is came up. So.
Said it came up. Oh.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oof.
Yikes.
Well, we have to use that up pipe.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just seeing if we actually needed it, but we do.
Wait, we need to go. We're bound up on something. Oh,
Yes.
oh, here, grab that side. I think we're free. We're free! Ah.
This thing.
Gross.
And as we put it on the lift, we realized that we have a suspension issue. It's most focused here in the rear, and the issue is we have no droop travel. Now we've done another video, talking about droop travel and such. I'll put a link to that up here. But I'll show you here that basically in the rear, as we're lifting the car up, there's only about 1 inch that the rear tires go down before they come off the ground. Up front, there's more droop travel. There's a little bit more range of motion up front. And the reason the droop travel is so important, especially on a rally car, is going over the rough stuff. I mean, the tires are going to move a bunch. If you have no droop travel and the rear is just up on stilts like it is here, you go over the rough stuff and it can't extend and keep the tires in contact with the ground. It's just going to skip over all of those rough sections, and you have no traction in that. And I think that that's a big part of the problem that we've been having. Right here, no problem.
We got a problem, guys.
Well, it's too tight. So this is the spacer.
Oh yeah. It's actually very comfortable.
rally car is in the shop. We're pretty much done. We're about to hand it back over to the Boosted Scoops guys so they can get it ready and loaded up on the trailer for Sno Drift.
Yep.
It has been a journey. Most of it good.
Yeah, no, it wasn't
Yeah.
terrible. Just one little snafu
Yes,
with springs.
with the springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tune-wise, so we got the restrictor in, tuned for the new restrictor, everything like that. The car is running really well. That's a huge positive. Harvey at the Boost Creep did a really good job. The car feels great.
It feels the best it's ever had.
Yeah.
Has.
I will say this is like the most power and the most fun of any of our rally cars have ever had. So that's exciting. Scott took it for a spin, our driver, and he was smiling pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I think he had fun. So suspension. So we ordered in some springs. We found what we could, and they didn't fit. They're just a little bit too small. So we weren't able to try and get the adjustment that we wanted by switching out the springs. But the good lesson here is always start from zero. Always assume that you don't know anything and kind of go back in there. So
Yeah.
not
sure.
not having the ability to change any of the parts out, we took a fresh look at the suspension, wound everything down, kind of started over from scratch, and said to ourselves, well, like let's just put it to zero, see where it's at, and that's what we did. And turns out that it's way better. So is it perfect? Don't know yet, but it's way, way better than what it was. We were able to pick up a lot more droop travel, especially in the rear.
Especially in the rear. There was way too much preload back there.
Yeah. So the issue here is that I guess first lesson is even if you have only one thing that you can adjust, you can still get things pretty wrong with the only one adjustment. And so with preloading a spring, so you've got a spring and it absorbs energy, but if you preload it, you're kind of increasing the tension on the spring and effectively increasing the spring rate.
Yeah.
And in the back, it was just so pre-tensioned that's I think why the back just was behaving the way that it was. So we took all of that preload out, and all of a sudden the suspension seems to be way happier, which is really exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Is there still going to be possibly some direction to go or some more way to go? Sure. But I think we've got it set up as best as we can now with the parts and everything that we have on it.
In the time we have
In the
right
time
now.
that we have. So now we can maybe find another spring rate or whatever. It's been actually really interesting just playing with this car and the spring rates because they're quite soft.
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing how the car behaves with that. It's 175 pound per inch front spring, 145 pound per inch rear spring, which is really, really, really soft. But it's interesting. The car moves around a lot, and we'll see how that works out. And we'll learn more by having it, running it in this configuration. We'll come back and figure out what the next thing is. With these cars, it's always something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it always it's very dependent on how the driver's driving style is as well.
Yeah. And the other thing with the rally car is, the other lesson that we learned here is you got to look at everything because, man, you find all sorts of stuff. Like found a ball joint that was bad.
Yep.
A steering rack boot that needs to be replaced. Found a cracked rotor, fixed that.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's just
axle.
An axle.
Yeah.
You start getting in under the car, you take it apart, and with a rally car, I mean, these guys see so much abuse. I mean, going over rough terrain at speed, just so much vibration, so many impacts. It's just really violent. It's harsh on the car, and it's amazing how many things you can start to break or damage, and you start looking at one thing and you realize, oh, well, we've got to do these two other things too. So
Yeah.
it's always a good lesson to remember or relearn with a rally car. Is just, man, if it's not broke, just wait 5 minutes or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have spares.
Have spares. However many spares you think you need, double that. But I mean, overall, I mean, yeah, the car feels good. We're really excited to put it in Scott and Ryan's hands, get it out there to Sno Drift, see what it does. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that we've fixed the pretension or the preload, the dampening was way better. Like it doesn't feel stiff or solid like a rock.
Yeah.
every time you go over bumps on slow speed.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that it's fixed, it acts like it should.
Yeah. I'm excited to see just how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, so far the early signs are very positive.
Yeah.
So, well, and thanks to the guys, thanks to Viet, Dylan, Alec, all the guys at Boosted Scoops, everybody that put in effort to get this car to where it is now, so that we can hand it over to Scott and Ryan, have them go out there and race it at Sno Drift and find out how it goes. And yeah, stay tuned to the Flatirons Tuning Facebook page, Instagram page for all the updates. Fingers crossed, it should be a fun event. Hopefully it's not too cold, which is unusual for Michigan in February.
Yeah.
Usually that's a place to avoid, but actually seems like it's going to be sort of nice. So really
For
excited.
Michigan.
Sure.
Yes.
Very excited to see how it all comes down. So
Yeah.
well, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for your support as always. And until next time, stay tuned to Flatirons Tuning.